I have always found solace in the gentle rhythm of suburban life, a life where every sunrise promised a new beginning, yet every sunset marked the familiar close of another day. In our small Floridian town, life flowed with a steady predictability that many might mistake for monotony. I lived with Richard, a man whose calm demeanor and unwavering reliability painted our shared days with a quiet sense of safety. His presence was as constant as the ocean tide that kissed our nearby shores, and together we built a life defined by routine and subtle comforts. Our mornings began with the soft light filtering through lace curtains, each ray a gentle reminder of another uncomplicated day. Richard would brew our coffee with a care that spoke of decades of practiced ritual, while I would lose myself in the delicate art of watching the interplay between light and shadow on our modest kitchen walls. The simplicity of these moments, though often overlooked by the busy world outside, had a way of filling our hearts with a kind of understated warmth. Evenings were spent in quiet company, long walks down familiar streets lined with century-old oak trees, or sitting on the porch as we exchanged soft words about our day. There was a certain beauty in the silence that wrapped around us during these moments, a silence that was not empty but rather full of shared memories and unspoken understanding. Richard's steady hand and reassuring smile had always been my anchor, a reminder of a love that was as dependable as the gentle Floridian breeze. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly flawless routine lay a subtle yearning for something beyond the ordinary. I began to wonder if our days, though safe and predictable, were missing a spark, an element of adventure that might awaken parts of me long forgotten. The town itself, with its neat rows of homes and familiar faces, held little mystery. Every corner had been explored, every cafe and park bench visited on countless afternoons. Still, there was comfort in that familiarity, a comfort that kept me tethered to the life I knew so well. I often found myself daydreaming during those quiet moments of reflection, imagining a life that ventured outside the boundaries of what was expected. There was a gentle stirring within, a whisper that perhaps life had more layers than the one I was living. Yet even as these thoughts swirled within me, I remained committed to the stability Richard offered, a steadfast presence in a world that often moved too quickly. In those early, unassuming days, I never suspected that the quiet cadence of our life was on the brink of transformation. Each sunrise carried with it the promise of familiarity, and each sunset whispered of the safe, unchallenged routine that had so far defined my existence. But sometimes, even in the most predictable of lives, a subtle shift can begin to stir the soul, setting the stage for a journey that will change everything. Life's familiar cadence was gently interrupted one crisp evening at the local cultural center, a place where colors, canvases, and creative minds converged to form unexpected alliances. I had enrolled in a painting class as a quiet escape from the everyday routine, a chance to explore the world through the prism of art. It was there, amid scattered tubes of paint and the soft murmur of fellow art enthusiasts, that I first encountered Andrew. Andrew possessed an undeniable magnetism, a vitality that radiated from him like the morning sun after a long, overcast night. His presence was marked by an easy confidence and an infectious enthusiasm that made the mundane seem extraordinary. While the other students focused on their technical strokes, he approached the canvas with a playful boldness, each brushstroke a vivid expression of his inner life, each color choice a testament to his vibrant spirit. I remember thinking that his energy filled the room, inviting everyone to look beyond the obvious and see the hidden poetry in everyday moments. When he spoke, his voice carried the cadence of far-off adventures and untold stories. In between the creative silence of the class, Andrew shared snippets of his journeys, recounting tales of sunlit coasts, bustling foreign streets, and tranquil mountain retreats. His stories weren't grandiose parables, but genuine reflections of moments that had left an indelible mark on his soul. I listened intently, finding in his words an echo of a longing I had scarcely acknowledged within myself, a yearning to break free from the predictable script of my life. During a pause in the lesson, as the soft strains of classical music played in the background, I found myself drawn to his work. "Your approach to color is unlike anything I've seen," I ventured, offering a compliment that felt both sincere and hesitant. Andrew's eyes lit up, and he responded with a smile that was both humble and engaging. "Thank you," he said, his tone warm and unassuming. "I believe every color tells its own story, much like every person does." That simple remark resonated with me, a gentle reminder that life held a myriad of narratives, each waiting to be discovered. Over the following weeks, our interactions in the painting class grew naturally. We would exchange brief words about our favorite artists and the subtle interplay of light and shadow on the canvas. Yet, beneath the surface of these seemingly casual conversations, I sensed an undercurrent of possibility, a spark that hinted at realms of experience yet to be explored. His insights into art and life were not just observations, they were invitations to see the world through a lens of wonder and curiosity. That evening at the Cultural Center marked the beginning of a slow but profound transformation. Andrew's presence stirred something dormant within me, a reminder of dreams that had quietly receded into the background of routine. As I left the class that night, I carried with me the impression of a new, vibrant perspective on life, one that promised an unfolding narrative of beauty, discovery, and unexpected encounters. Life has a curious way of interweaving destinies in the most unforeseen moments. In the wake of my first encounter with Andrew at the Cultural Center, the subtle threads of fate began to pull me toward him again and again, in places I had long taken for granted. Our city, with its timeless charm, transformed into a canvas for serendipity, each stroke revealing a new facet of his vibrant personality. One rainy afternoon, seeking refuge from the sudden downpour, I wandered into a quaint city cafe known for its eclectic mix of vintage decor and modern beats. The air was redolent with the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans and the quiet murmur of heartfelt conversations. I had chosen a quiet corner by a fogged-up window when I noticed a familiar silhouette across the room. Andrew, casually dressed in a light jacket, sat at a table near the counter, lost in a thick, well-worn book. His gaze occasionally lifted, as if absorbing every nuance of the rain outside, and in those moments, I sensed the unspoken connection between our worlds. His presence was both comforting and electric, a subtle reminder that sometimes life surprises you when you least expect it. A few weeks later, the town's annual book festival unfolded in the town square, transforming the familiar streets into a vibrant celebration of literature and ideas. Stalls lined with rare first editions and handwritten manuscripts beckoned curious visitors, and spontaneous conversations bubbled among clusters of art and literature enthusiasts. Amid the lively chatter, I discovered Andrew again, this time in the midst of an animated discussion about a contemporary novel. His words flowed effortlessly, laced with insights that revealed an intellectual curiosity that matched his creative zeal. I lingered at a distance, mesmerized not only by his articulate expression, but also by the way his eyes sparkled with genuine interest, inviting those around him to share in the magic of a well-told story. The most unexpected of our meetings occurred during one of my early morning jogs in the park. In the quiet solitude of dawn, when the world still held its breath before the day's hustle, the park offered a serene escape. As I rounded a familiar bend, I found Andrew stretching near a small pond, his silhouette mirrored perfectly in the still water. The moment was as surreal as it was ordinary, a fleeting meeting of two souls in the soft glow of morning light. We exchanged a brief nod, a silent acknowledgement of the shared beauty of that serene hour. In that instant, the park, usually a backdrop for solitary reflection, transformed into a stage where life's unexpected encounters breathed new life into my routine. Each of these moments, though distinct in their setting, carried the same undercurrent of possibility. Andrew's presence continued to appear where I least anticipated it, gently nudging me toward a deeper exploration of my own desires and dreams. I began to see that the familiar corners of our small town held hidden treasures. Stories waiting to be told, connections waiting to be made, if only one was willing to look with an open heart. In the weeks that followed our unforeseen encounters, a profound transformation began to unfurl within me. The subtle yet insistent presence of Andrew in my daily life stirred a long-forgotten yearning for change. I found myself questioning the quiet routine I had so comfortably embraced for years. The familiar walls of my suburban existence, once a sanctuary of stability, now seemed to whisper of hidden depths and unexplored possibilities. It started with a renewed fascination for art in all its forms. I began frequenting local galleries and art exhibitions, drawn by a magnetic pull to the vibrant narratives each piece of art carried. Walking through the hushed corridors of these cultural spaces, I was no longer just an observer, but an active seeker of meaning, a traveler on a journey of rediscovery. The canvases, alive with emotions and stories, spoke to me in ways that the daily chatter of routine never had. With every brushstroke I admired, I felt as though I was reclaiming fragments of a self that had long lain dormant beneath layers of habit and comfort. My curiosity soon expanded beyond passive observation. I enrolled in creative workshops that promised not only technical guidance, but also a journey into self expression. These sessions became a crucible for my inner thoughts, a space where I could translate the once muted whispers of my soul into bold, vibrant expressions on paper and canvas. I experimented with different styles and techniques, letting my hands guide me in ways that my mind had hesitated to imagine. Each piece I created was a revelation, a vivid, unfiltered glimpse of my true self, reawakened and eager to communicate. The process was both exhilarating and daunting. I discovered that in seeking new experiences, I was also rediscovering old dreams that had been quietly stifled by the predictability of my life. There was an undeniable thrill in breaking away from the familiar, in daring to confront the uncharted territories of my own desires. Even the simple act of attending a lecture on modern art became a profound experience. The discussions and debates that ensued in those hallowed halls challenged my perspectives and broadened my understanding of what life could be. With each passing day, the resurgence of these creative impulses infused my life with a newfound vibrancy. I started to view the world through a lens that was rich with possibility and depth. Every conversation, every shared smile with fellow art enthusiasts, and every quiet moment of introspection served as a reminder that life was far more complex and beautiful than the confines of routine. This renaissance of the inner self was not just a fleeting whim. It was a deliberate, heartfelt commitment to rediscovering the myriad facets of my identity. In embracing this transformation, I felt a profound shift in my inner landscape. The mundane routines of my previous existence began to merge with the vivid hues of a reawakened spirit, creating a mosaic of experiences that was as unpredictable as it was exhilarating. Though the path ahead remained uncertain, I welcomed the ambiguity with open arms, ready to explore the uncharted realms of my soul and to let the vibrant cadence of life guide me towards a future filled with endless possibilities. In the midst of my blossoming journey into a world of art and self-expression, a persistent and unsettling discord began to take root within me. Each new experience with Andrew, every moment spent immersed in creative exploration, also illuminated the stark contrast between my emerging desires and the life I had built with Richard. It was as if two distinct voices within me were vying for dominance, one calling for the security of the familiar, and the other urging me toward uncharted territories of self-discovery. At first, the dissonance was subtle, manifesting in fleeting moments of hesitation and quiet introspection. I would find myself pausing in the middle of a vibrant conversation about art or literature, feeling the weight of a decision that had no clear answer. In these instances, the memories of a comfortable life with Richard, filled with routine, predictability, and a sense of enduring trust, clashed with the vivid, unpredictable spark that Andrew had ignited in me. The certainty of our daily life, with its gentle rhythms and unspoken promises, now seemed both a shelter and a confinement. During solitary walks along familiar streets, I began to notice how every familiar landmark stirred conflicting emotions. The park where I once found solace now felt like a reminder of a life half lived, while the vibrant gallery exhibitions and impromptu creative gatherings kindled a longing for something more elusive. Each step I took was marked by an internal tug of war, a silent negotiation between the heart that yearned for renewal and the mind that clung to the comfort of established routines. The more I immersed myself in the world of art and shared moments with Andrew, the more the duality of my existence became apparent. I was confronted with the realization that the spark he brought into my life was not merely a distraction, but a challenge to the very foundation of my long held beliefs about love, duty, and self fulfillment. In quiet moments of reflection, I questioned whether the vibrant hues of my new experiences could ever harmonize with the subdued tones of a past life built on stability. This internal conflict began to shape my perception of every aspect of my day to day existence. Even in the soft glow of the early morning or the peaceful solitude of the late evening, I sensed the constant interplay of two worlds within me, one that represented the safe and predictable, and another that beckoned with the promise of rediscovery and reinvention. The more I tried to embrace the new, the more I felt the invisible chains of responsibility and familiarity pulling me back. Each day became a delicate balancing act, where the joy of newfound inspiration was inextricably linked with the nagging question of what I might be losing in the process. As the conflict deepened, it became increasingly clear that this inner turmoil was more than a mere phase. It was a profound reckoning with my true self. I began to understand that the path forward was not as simple as choosing one life over the other. Instead, I faced a fundamental choice: to continue living in the comfort of routine and safety, or to risk the uncertainties of change in search of a more authentic, if unpredictable, existence. This realization set the stage for a journey that would not only test the limits of my convictions, but also redefine the very essence of who I was and who I longed to become. As the days melted into a tapestry of hidden smiles and quiet adventures, I found myself living in a delicate balance, a life that unfolded in two distinct yet intertwined narratives. With Richard, life retained its gentle, methodical rhythm, marked by warm, home-cooked meals, familiar routines, and evenings spent in comfortable silence. Yet, alongside this predictable cadence, there emerged another existence, vibrant and unexpected, woven from the fleeting joys I shared with Andrew. My time with Andrew was a series of small yet profound moments that redefined my understanding of happiness. We began to explore the lesser-known corners of our town: an old lecture on contemporary art in a converted warehouse, where voices echoed with fresh ideas and challenged conventional thought; a visit to a new restaurant tucked away on a side street, where the menu was as much an adventure as the conversations that accompanied each course. Every encounter with him brought with it a sense of novelty, a reminder that life's true beauty often lies in the details, in the spontaneity of a shared smile, or the serendipity of discovering a hidden mural in an alleyway. There were mornings when I would wake up with the weight of two contrasting worlds on my shoulders. In the early light, while Richard prepared our usual breakfast with his quiet competence, my mind would drift to the moments I had recently spent with Andrew. I recalled the intriguing debates we had about art and its connection to human experience, the way he could see the extraordinary in the mundane. Those recollections stirred within me a gentle thrill, a subtle but persistent yearning for experiences that transcended the routine. Afternoons often became a time of exploration, an impromptu detour to a historical district where cobblestone streets and aged brick facades whispered secrets of times gone by. With Andrew, I wandered through narrow lanes lined with artisan shops and cozy bookshops, each step an affirmation of a life rich with discovery. There was a rare beauty in those simple excursions, the quiet pleasure of a shared discovery, a moment of unspoken understanding, or the gentle camaraderie found in discussing the significance of a centuries-old painting exhibited in a small local gallery. Evenings would later find me reflecting on these dual lives. The calm familiarity of my long-standing relationship with Richard offered a foundation, a sense of security that grounded me. Yet, the bright, spontaneous interludes with Andrew illuminated the possibility of change, of uncharted creativity that beckoned from beyond the horizon of routine. The contrast was both exhilarating and challenging, as every shared moment with Andrew whispered a promise of something more, something transformative, even as it deepened the inner conflict between my need for stability and the allure of the unknown. In the quiet spaces of my heart, each day was a testament to the delicate art of living two lives simultaneously, each defined by its own set of small joys, its own unique cadence. And with every shared experience, I found myself questioning which life held the key to the person I truly longed to become. In the midst of an ordinary day marked by the soft glow of a fading afternoon, the weight of choices long simmering beneath the surface finally reached a boiling point. I found myself standing at a crossroads that demanded a decision no one could have predicted, a moment when the familiar boundaries of my life blurred into uncertainty. With Richard, life had been a tapestry of calm routines and understated care. Yet with Andrew, there flickered an allure of discovery that beckoned me to rewrite the narrative of my existence. I had always cherished the security that Richard provided, the silent promise of constancy that had quietly anchored our shared years. But the pull of Andrew, his bright insights, his fearless embrace of life's uncharted chapters, had awakened something dormant within me. It was no longer a mere fascination or an idle daydream. It had grown into a compelling need to explore a side of myself that had long been stifled by the safe confines of a predictable life. Every encounter with him had chipped away at the barriers I'd built over years of settled routines, unveiling a yearning for a more vivid, expansive experience. That day, as I sat in the soft lamplight of my study, the pages of an old journal spread before me, I wrestled with a decision that felt both inevitable and heartrending. The journal, filled with sketches, thoughts, and memories of a time when my dreams knew no limits, served as a silent witness to the evolution of my inner world. It was then I realized that what I sought was not a mere dalliance, but a transformative act that would alter the very fabric of my relationships. I recalled the many evenings spent in quiet contentment with Richard, and how those moments were gradually interlaced with the promise of something extraordinary shared with Andrew. The turning point came subtly, yet with a clarity that left no room for retreat. A chance encounter at a local art exhibition had stirred within me a conviction that the life I was living was no longer sufficient to fulfill the depths of my aspirations. I realized that in my heart, the warmth and stability Richard had offered were being overshadowed by a newfound drive to pursue the vibrant, if uncertain, path illuminated by Andrew's presence. In that fragile, contemplative moment, I made a decision. A decision to act on the impulse that had been growing steadily over months of secret meetings and reflective solitude. That decision, once made, felt like an irreversible step. I began to orchestrate meetings with Andrew with increasing frequency, each one laced with the bittersweet knowledge that I was stepping into a realm where loyalty to one life was being forsaken in favor of another. Every conversation, every shared moment of insight affirmed my choice, even as the gravity of what it meant began to settle in. It was not a reckless abandon, but a deliberate, painful reorientation of my heart's compass. A choice that, in retrospect, marked the precise moment when fidelity was replaced by the irresistible call of change. In the days that followed my decisive step into a new, uncertain chapter, an unexpected heaviness began to settle upon my soul. The initial thrill of change gradually gave way to the sober reality of consequences. What once had seemed like a bold leap into a future filled with untapped potential now revealed itself as a precipice where every misstep echoed the cost of lost trust. The betrayal, as real and palpable as the humid Floridian air, was a constant reminder that every decision reshapes our inner world in ways we can scarcely predict. Each day, the consequences of my actions manifested in subtle yet profound ways. I found myself wandering through the quiet hours of early mornings, grappling with a deep, pervasive melancholy that neither the golden hues of dawn nor the soft murmur of the ocean could soothe. The echoes of regret mingled with the remnants of a once stable life. A life where every shared smile with Richard now felt like a ghost of what used to be. I started noticing how familiar places around town took on a different hue, as if the vibrancy of my memories was slowly being washed away by the tides of remorse. The nights were no less troubled. Alone in the quiet of my room, I would pore over old photographs and mementos, trying to reconstruct the timeline of a love that had gradually unraveled. The vivid recollections of our shared past, simple joys, whispered confidences, and dreams nurtured together, clashed violently with the harsh reality of my current state of inner conflict. In those moments, the silence was not comforting but rather oppressive, amplifying every regret and every moment of hesitation that had led me to this point. Andrew, whose presence had once ignited a newfound sense of freedom and discovery, now served as a bittersweet reminder of my dual existence. Our conversations, once brimming with hopeful excitement, became tinged with an undercurrent of sorrow and self-reproach. Each meeting, each shared adventure, was shadowed by the knowledge that the spark of our encounters was built upon the ruins of a trust I could never restore. Even the vibrant murals I once admired in the city's hidden alleys now seemed to mock me with their reminder of the beauty I had risked losing. Amid the turmoil, I attempted to seek solace in the art that had once been my refuge. I returned to the local galleries and creative workshops, hoping that the familiar dance of light and shadow on the canvas might help me navigate the darkness within. Yet, even as I tried to immerse myself in colors and textures, I was constantly reminded of the delicate balance between creation and destruction. The understanding that every act of self-expression carried the weight of choices made, and the inevitable fallout of those decisions. The internal struggle was relentless, a vivid interplay of hope and despair that forced me to confront the true nature of my actions. I began to question whether the pursuit of self-rediscovery had been worth the price of shattered bonds and altered destinies. Each moment of introspection revealed layers of complexity, painting a portrait of a woman caught between the magnetic pull of change and the irrevocable cost of betrayal. The road ahead, once gleaming with promise, now appeared obscured by the shadows of what had been sacrificed. A future that demanded not only a reckoning with my past, but a transformation of the self I had once known. In the quiet hours following days steeped in regret and self-reproach, the realization grew undeniable. Living a life split between two realities was a burden too heavy to bear. The internal discord, the ceaseless murmur of a conscience unquieted, compelled me to seek a resolution not in secret rendezvous or furtive smiles, but in the stark light of honesty. I knew that I could no longer continue this existence without confronting the undeniable truth that had gradually unraveled the tapestry of my life. Late one evening, as the humid Floridian night wrapped the town in its warm embrace, I found myself sitting in the solitude of my study, the only sound the soft rustle of pages from a long-forgotten diary. The handwritten words, relics of dreams and untainted hopes, spoke of a time when I believed that honesty was the cornerstone of every relationship. That memory was a beacon in the gathering darkness, a reminder that true strength lay in the courage to face one's mistakes. The decision was clear. I had to tell Richard everything, to expose the hidden chapters of my heart and accept the consequences, however painful they might be. The morning came with a hesitant glow, as if the sun itself sensed the gravity of the day. I sat across from Richard at our well-worn breakfast table, a space once filled with quiet comfort, now thick with unspoken questions. My voice, when it emerged, was soft yet resolute, each word deliberate and heavy with remorse. I recounted the slow unraveling of my inner world, the stirring of desires that had led me down a path of dual lives, a confession rendered not as an accusation against fate, but as an admission of my own vulnerability and longing for renewal. Richard listened with an expression that mingled sorrow and disbelief, his eyes revealing the hurt of a trust shattered by revelations he never expected. As I spoke, I could see the pain etched into every line of his face, a stark reminder of the cost of my choices. I expressed my regret without diminishing the profound impact our shared past had on me, acknowledging that the life we built together had been rooted in genuine care and mutual understanding. Yet, I also revealed that the spark I once believed to be a fleeting whim had grown into an undeniable call for change. A call that, regrettably, led me to seek solace in unexpected places. There was a solemn beauty in that conversation, a raw, unfiltered exchange where words flowed with the weight of truth, and silence carried the echoes of lost moments. In that moment, every carefully constructed facade fell away, leaving only the honest, trembling core of a woman desperate to reconcile the fractures in her heart. The dialogue was measured and honest, a courageous confrontation with both our past and the uncertain future. Though the road ahead promised hardship, I sensed that embracing this truth, however painful, might be the first step toward healing, and perhaps the slow restoration of what was irreparably altered. In the days that followed my confession, the air around our home grew thick with unspoken sorrow and the heavy residue of broken promises. The inevitable conversation with Richard, long postponed and now forced into the harsh light of reality, finally arrived with an intensity that neither of us had been prepared to face. The house, once a refuge of shared dreams and soft murmurs of love, had become a stage for the most painful dialogue of our lives, a conversation where every word carried the weight of irretrievable loss.